Missions is an integral part of Lipscomb University. Continuing in the thought of our founder, David Lipscomb, the university's purpose is to prepare our students for a life of service in the kingdom of God. That service is not limited to a few specialized vocations, but is open to all.
My overall hope for missions has always been to allow everyone who comes to Lipscomb to explore the purposes of God for their life. Missions at Lipscomb is not focused on a small number of Bible students, but rather is really focused on how do we allow all of our students to live out the mission of God in whatever vocation they choose to pursue.
Missions is not a specialization in our Bible curriculum. It is at the heart of all curriculums in the university. Our purpose is to provide opportunities for each of our students to experience life in full service to God. This is done through an impressive variety of opportunities, literally worldwide.
We help build gardens for them so that they can self-sustain themselves.
To provide dental and medical care for the rural communities in Guatemala.
To be love, which is a very abstract thought, but we were able to put flesh around it, being able to interact with the kids, hugging and playing with them.
Leading a mission trip to Robbins, Tennessee, to work with Habitat for Humanity for the last 12 years.
It was an engineering project. We created a design for composting latrines that could be built for less than $150, and we implemented that design when we went to Honduras.
We built 2 houses. We gave them food and medicine and clothing. Just tried to help out however we could.
The opportunities are almost endless, but they all have the same goal, to glorify God. And there's no better way to tell the story of Jesus than through service to others.
And what I have affirmed to me over and over again in every mission experience is that when you tell the story of Jesus well, that the offer that he makes is absolutely true, and that all the other stories that try to give meaning to life fade in comparison.
Missions is not always easy, but it is the challenges that make a trip memorable. More importantly, it is seeing God provide in the face of those challenges that makes missions unforgettable.
I think I learned that God works in ways that I don't expect him to, that he works through trials, he works through disagreements.
The biggest thing that I keep learning is that I can do nothing. It's really the whole idea of planting a seed and allowing God to provide the growth.
God reveals to me in these experiences that he can take the least of these and do his marvelous work through them.
Through such service, our students are formed and developed spiritually as they experience the joy of serving others to the glory of God.
God was almost working more in us through them than he was working on them.
I learned that it's more about other people than yourself. It's more about how to work along someone to serve God's purpose. You can't do that alone.
I lead a mission team because I like watching people realize they're capable of more than they ever thought they were capable of when they put themselves out there for the Lord to use them.
There's nothing that thrills my heart more than being able to share the story of Jesus with people who don't know it or perhaps have heard it in ways that are less than helpful to them. And then, seeing our students involved in that as well is just, I just can't imagine something more meaningful than that.
New trips are formed each year, but more established trips continue to send groups to rekindle and build upon the deeply rooted relationships formed in years past.
There's a teenager named John Johnson. As a teenager that lives in Ceiba. Then as this past year, we left John with a Bible and a will to learn. And I just saw God moving through him, and he saw God moving in his own life. When he talked about that, it was the first time I'd ever heard anybody on Ceiba say anything about God being active in their lives.
To continue those relationships that I've come to call family has been probably most influential in my life, but more influential in the building of my faith than anything that I can think of.
The immediate trust that takes place in building those relationships, it's just something that can't be explained other than God's Spirit and God's presence there.
We invite you to join us in our efforts to partner with God in his work to reconcile the world to himself.
I think it's really important to understand that we don't have a mission. It's God's mission. We are God's mission to the world. He invites us to be his hands, his feet, his heart. There is no greater calling.